you're trying to decide what type of transportation to use during your Ireland vacation, this episode might be of help to you. Today, I am comparing the costs and experiences of hiring a private driver versus renting a car. Are you looking for the ultimate Irish golf experience? Ireland Travel Links specializes in luxury golf tours, offering access to the finest courses across Ireland and Scotland. From legendary links like Ballybunion Old Course to hidden gems like Crutch Island, Ireland Travel Links creates personalized golfing getaways complete with top-notch accommodations and seamless transportation. Whether you're a seasoned golfer or a casual player, they will craft the perfect itinerary for you, taking care of every detail so you can focus on your game. Visit IrelandFamilyVacations.com/ITL to tee off on your dream Irish golf tour today. Or learn more about Ireland Travel Links in the Traveling in Ireland podcast episode 207, A Golfer's Guide to Ireland. One of the first decisions that you're going to make as you start planning your Ireland vacation is your transportation. How are you going to travel from city to country or cliffs to castles while still making the most of your time and your budget? So today I'm going to break down some of the things that you may have thought of, but others that you may not have when you are trying to decide between hiring a private driver guide or renting a car for your vacation. I'm going to talk about benefits and drawbacks of each option, as well as taking into account travel styles and budget, and hopefully this is going to help you to make the most of your trip. Now, before I get started, I want to remind you that I have loads of resources on both of these topics on my website, Ireland Family Vacations. So you're going to find all the resources you need to help you navigate car rental in Ireland at IrelandFamilyVacations.com/car rental, all one word, and everything you need to know before hiring a driver guide, as well as the drivers I personally recommend, can be found at IrelandFamilyVacations.com/driver guide. Again, all one word. So to jump into this, I'm going to start with the private driver guide. This is if I can afford it, which usually I can only afford it when I do my private small group tours. But having a private driver guide is probably one of my favorite ways, if not to see the entirety of Ireland or spend the entire trip, to have at least for a portion of my trip, because it's like you have your own expert right there in the car with you. They know, they've traveled the length and the breadth down probably almost every single winding road in the country. And it's more than just transportation. It's storytelling. It's, the crack. It's the history. There's just so much that you can gain from having that driver taking you throughout the country. So the pros of hiring a driver guide is that, like I said, it's almost like having an encyclopedia on wheels. You're going to hear the folklore of an area. You're going to hear, little tidbits of gossip maybe. You're going to hear the stories and the history and the folklore. It's just really, really an incredible, it's almost like a narration, right, of your trip. And that, you can't really discount that when you're looking at the cost of it. Another thing that having a driver gives you is stress-free travel. You don't have to worry about following a map or navigating roads or deciphering road signs that you probably passed too quickly. And then you're like, what did that say? Was that my turn? You just get to sit back and relax and enjoy the scenery while your driver is handling, every little bend in the road, the tractors that you come around a corner and there they are and you're almost at a standstill. They're handling it all. And that is so relaxing. You also can get a more tailored experience. You're not going to be kind of freewheeling it with a driver guide. They're going to have a starting point and an ending point. But your itinerary is kind of just a direction because it's still flexible and customizable according to your interests. And as your driver gets to know you, they're going to maybe make a few changes on your days, tailor them a little bit better to fit your interests, and maybe some inquiries as you've been chatting, as you've been driving through the country. So I've ended up at the local pubs of a couple of my drivers before. It was actually funny. I was just in Ireland in October, and a driver guide that I work with, we were staying in his town. And so he actually arranged a birthday party for my husband at his local pub. And there's just nothing like it. Kind of that personal, that more personal experience that you get. I also, with drivers, have gone to places that I myself have, never heard of before, or there's some quaint character that maybe if you were traveling alone, you wouldn't give a second thought to, but if your driver recommends it, you're going to pay attention. You're going to go and see and have those experiences. And, maybe you'll end up chatting away the evening in a pub with somebody that, the driver sent you to this pub and they say, look for this guy wearing a cap. He sits in the corner. You want to talk to him. And then you have the most memorable night of your trip. So those personal insights really do make a driver guide, it elevates the experience, I guess, is the best way to put it. Now, the cons of having a driver guide, the first one is the price. Hiring a private driver is significantly more expensive than renting a car. And it ranges, in all honesty, from €500 a day to €1,200 a day, depending on the amount of time, the distance, and the vehicle size. So it is not an inexpensive transportation option. And even though you do have flexibility with your driver guide, you are still limited by the amount of hours a private driver is allowed to work during the day. And that's approximately 8 hours. It's a full touring day. It's 10 to 6, 9 to 5, however you want to look at it. It is a full day. But when you have your own car, you have longer times to drive, maybe a little longer to spend places, if you don't mind driving into the evening. So there is that to think of as well. Now, when you're thinking of renting a car, probably the best word to use for that is adventure. It truly is an adventure to get behind the wheel and drive in a foreign country along roads you don't know, especially in the countryside. But it also gives you the freedom to explore at your own pace, and sometimes that can be priceless. So the pros of renting a car include, like I said, the flexibility and the independence. You are the master of your itinerary. You can linger as long as you want on a beautiful cliff walk, or if you're driving along and you see one of those intriguing brown signs that points to a historical marker, you can turn and follow it without any worry. You also have the cost efficiency. It is more economical in most cases to rent a car if you are comfortable driving on the left side of the road, the right side of the car. Now, the thing to remember with that is that prices are going to vary based on the time of the year and the vehicle size. And you also don't want to forget to include the cost of insurance and petrol if you're doing a side-by-side comparison to hiring a driver. So make sure that you're putting in all the costs that you're going to incur. The final pro on renting a car is that it gives you maybe more immersion. And I don't know if that's really the right way to say it, but maybe what I'm trying to say is spontaneity, right? You can decide to enjoy a pub all afternoon. If you don't have anything booked, you can say, I'm done with the itinerary today. This pub is super cute, and I'm going to sit here and have a toasty and a chat and spend my afternoon. Or you can drive, until, gosh, in the summer it stays nice and light until 10, 11 o'clock. You can explore as late as you want. You aren't limited by anybody else's schedule. So that's a lot to be said for that. Now, the cons of renting a car include navigational challenges. The Irish roads are narrow and winding once you're off that motorway. You're not going to go the posted speed limit. It's going to take longer to get from point A to point B than you think it will. Also, driving on the left side of the road can pose challenges for those who are unfamiliar with it. And, it's just something to keep in mind. And I do have tips for driving on the website as well. So if you're considering driving, you're going to want to dig into the driving guides a bit more. The hidden costs of renting a car include fuel prices. They are higher in Europe. When I was in Ireland in October, gas was around €6.23 a gallon, €6.23 a gallon, because they sell it by the liter. So keep that in mind. That can add up quickly. And you do have that excess insurance as well. Again, the Hiring a Car in Ireland article is going to walk you through everything you need to know, but you do need to keep the insurance costs in mind as well when you are looking at your overall costs. A final thing to remember with car rental is that there are space limitations. European vehicles have less trunk space. So for families of more than 5 people or larger groups, you're either going to need multiple vehicles, which means multiple drivers, or you're going to be paying a premium to get an 8-passenger vehicle, which is very hard to find and very expensive. And once you do that, you may be to the point where hiring a driver doesn't quite seem so bad. So when you're deciding between those two options, what should you be thinking of? Obviously, there are going to be budget constraints. I understand that hiring a driver is expensive. So if keeping costs low is your top priority, then you're definitely looking at a self-drive vacation if you're just considering those two options. You also want to think about your travel style preferences. If you want to relax and sit back and enjoy the vacation, then maybe that excess cost for a driver guide is right for you. Because as much as I love driving in Ireland, and it's one of my favorite things, it's not always relaxing. And it's kind of funny because, I live in the Midwest. That's where I spend most of my time. I've lived all over the US. I've driven in large cities, and I've driven in these vast, vast open areas of the Midwest. So a 12-hour drive, in all honesty, is nothing for me. But a 12-hour drive in the US across vast land is far, far different than a 3-hour drive on small, narrow country roads that don't have a straight spot anywhere to be seen, with slowing down, speeding up, slowing down, because you've got traffic, you've got small towns, you've got animals. So it's a very, very different driving experience. So if relaxing is important to you, you might want to consider the driver guide. And then finally, you want to think about group dynamics and group size. For groups of 8 people and larger, I highly recommend realistically comparing the full price of car rental. So whether that means, actually, if it's 8 people or more, it's multiple vehicles. You are not going to get a vehicle that will hold 8 people and all the luggage you're bringing, unless everybody is just pack and carry on only. You're looking at multiple vehicles. So really, realistically, look at the cost, comparing the full price of car rental, including the multiple vehicles, the insurance, the petrol, to the cost of a driver guide. When you break it down on a cost per person basis, it may not be as expensive as you would expect. Now, I've covered kind of the pros and cons of both and the things that you might want to think about, but I want to offer you another option, and that is the best of both, a car rental and a private driver. Your trip doesn't have to be all of one or all of the other. You can have both. So consider, let's say that you're staying in Dublin, because you don't need a car in Dublin. You don't want a car in Dublin. So let's say you're staying in Dublin for 3 days and you want to take a few day trips out of the city before picking up your rental car to explore further. Well, using a private driver guide for a 1-day trip, maybe to Wicklow or up to the Boyne Valley, is a terrific option. You're going to get those stories and the history without navigating yourself, and renting a car for those days. You can really enjoy having the driver on those. Or maybe you've taken off out of Dublin in your rental car and you're in one of those areas of Ireland that is just amazing scenic beauty. So thinking about, the peninsulas in County Kerry, or that lunar landscape of the Burren, or even up along the Causeway Coast. These areas are perfect for a day trip with your own personal storyteller and guide. You're really going to get so much out of it. You'll have the stories told to you, the lore, the legend. All of those places have been used for filming. So maybe, you visit some movie sites, or, they take you off-road and up to places that you would never, ever imagine going. So those are just a couple of ways that you might do both, the car rental and splurge on a driver guide for a day or two. So if you're thinking about this like pretty thoroughly, you're like, I still don't know which way is going to be the best for me. What's going to be the best option for my trip, my group, and my vacation? If you want my opinion, I am more than happy to help you. I have a quick form that you can, actually it's like multiple choice, so just tick the boxes, right? You just answer a few quick questions and I will respond with the option that I think will work best for you, as well as some helpful tips for your trip. So if you would like my opinion on whether a car rental or a driver guide is best for you, all you need to do is visit IrelandFamilyVacations.com/car or driver. Again, all one word, car or driver. Answer those questions that are on the form, and I will respond to you with the answer that I think is going to best fit your trip. Thank you so much for listening today. If you found today's podcast helpful, please leave a 5-star review at Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you can't leave a review on your podcast app, you can leave a review on the Ireland Family Vacations Facebook page or on Trustpilot at IrelandFamilyVacations.com/trust. If you have questions or comments, you can always email me, Jody, Jody, at IrelandFamilyVacations.com. Thanks so much again for listening, and until next time, slán go fóill.